This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Friday, let's switch gears here. Let's talk a little basketball. The Miami Heat, hell of a weekend as they end up defeating the Clippers, and then they end up losing to the Raptors over the weekend. And I got to tell you, Ira, it was – I know it was frustrating, and Spo calls the timeout and the up by Martin and you know Butler misses the shot and all that stuff, and obviously Tyler from the top of the key, and he's just got a smile. I walked away from that game like really proud of those guys because there's no moral victories because the Heat organization is way above moral victories. But to me, it was like a character loss. It's like, okay, we didn't do everything right, but if you're going to beat us, you're still going to earn every single moment, and we're not going to give up even when we screw up. We're not going to give up. I just love the fight of that team all the way to the end. And while it was frustrating to lose, there was just a sense of pride for me in the way that they played all the way to the end. I just love that they never gave up, man.
And that Big O was on the second night of a back-to-back. So it wasn't even that they had to go 3 extra periods, but they played players through the end. You know what I like about games like that, Big O, is it opens a window to who Eric Spoelstra trusts the most. And he did have Tyler Hero out at the end of the game, and I wrote this at sunsentinel.com. The problem is when you need a guy who can get buckets, sometimes you give up something on the defensive end. And it reminds me of those, for the old timers, those Bugs Bunny cartoons when they turn the bad guy into a piece of steak and they're going to attack him. That's who Tyler was. They put Tyler in every pick and roll. They call it putting him through the washing machine. They put him through everything. So Big O, couple of factors there. If Kyle Lowry was available, he might have been on the floor instead. And if Victor Oladipo was healthy, that's the two-way guard we're waiting for. So the Heat eventually could get to a closing lineup where there is no defensive liability. They didn't have Duncan Robinson out there. They didn't have Max Strus out there. They had 4 defenders. They had P.J. Tucker, Gabe Vincent, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo. And like any team would, you hunt out the weak link and you go from there. So the Heat can still head to something more complete. But that's the problem. So many people were asking me, well, why wasn't Duncan Robinson in there? Or why wasn't Max Strus, who had a nice third quarter, in there? And the thing is, there are guys who are shooters and scorers who other people set up. But in tight situations like that, when you've got to get your own, that's a gift that Tyler Hero has, whether he's making them or missing them. It's also a gift Kyle Lowry has. It's also a gift Victor Oladipo has. So again, it's kind of weird. It's like I've been doing these accurate Pembroke Pines reports from the get-go telling you, Big O, we have yet to see the Heat's full possibilities, and we've still yet to see the Heat's full possibilities. Only 14 games with Jimmy, with Lowry, and with Bam. Waiting on Kyle now, personal situation. I think we all agree it must be pretty damn dire for him to miss this amount of time, so you let him deal with his family situation, and you wait to see what the Heat look like whole. They will look like something better than they were against Toronto on Saturday. Hey, that's all you can say. If on January 31st, I can tell you this, Big O, the Miami Heat are in first place, and the best is yet to come.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Listen, I the only thing I was maybe frustrated, as you mentioned, was Duncan, that it looked like he was coming out of his funk, and then he goes 0 for 5. You know, I mean, 0 for 5, and you're playing 3 overtimes. It's like, man, are you serious? This is one of those games that they could have used a few of your threes, you know, overall to kind of loosen things up.
But overall, that's the thing with shooters. They're going to be streaky. So overall, in his last 4 or 5 games, he's still right around 50%. That's going to happen. For every 5 and 9 he's going to give you.
Yeah, but I need him to, since he's kind of been kind of stanky, not streaky in the first half of the season. I need a longer streak from you right now. You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough.
Not 4 or 5 games. I need you to go on a 2 or 3 week binge where you're like just shooting the hell out of the ball to kind of make up for what you've done so far in the first half.
Maybe we see that tonight. We see that tonight at TD Garden.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's just that was the only thing that was a little frustrating for me in that game. Butler, by the way, played his ass off. I mean,
until he reached the point of exhaustion. So, you know,
well, it's a back-to-back and 3 overtimes. I mean, God bless him, dude.
And
You
now
know,
he's questionable. And now he's questionable with the ankle tonight. Oh, you're actually very good at this. I know you do some fundraising on the side. You try to raise money for your show. I think we need to get a GoFundMe for Jimmy for ankle tape. And I think if all of our listeners, during these Acura Pembroke Pines reports, give a buck or two, I think we can get Jimmy some ankle tape. He still doesn't tape his ankles. He keeps showing up in these injury reports with possible sprained ankle, questionable tonight. I know some guys are who they are, and they just do not feel comfortable with their ankles being so rigid. But damn, he just keeps showing up with ankle all the time.
yeah. And how about the brace or something? I mean,
Anything.
I have one of those braces that I used to wear all the time for basketball that you like sit on, and then it's that steel
Yes.
thing that goes right along, and then you have the
You wrap him with the
Velcro.
You wrap him with the Velcro,
Yeah,
and you
dude,
lace it up. Yeah.
yeah, man, because I've twisted up my
But
ankle
you
and
know
it's
what?
ended up
But
like
you're
a
not
damn
a
avocado
professional
like 8
athlete,
times.
and a lot of it has to do with playing on feel, so you can sort of understand as well.
No, I get it, but man, it's
Frustrating.
listen, it's like what I say with Lowry. All these absences, which I wish he wasn't absent because obviously there's something serious going on
Right.
with some family member, which you really like at this point now. I'm now more concerned for Lowry, the human being, that he must be going through
Sure.
some real, emotional, mental torture right now because this has to be something serious with one of
Right.
his family members. But on the basketball side of it, it's a blessing because this is a guy that's got so much mileage. He can use the rest. Well, when you get him back, I'd like to see Jimmy out for a little bit too, because that's another guy. He's already had some rest this year. He
Right.
probably needs a little bit more
But I
because
also need to see the
of what you
cohesion. I need
said.
to see what they
No,
look
I
like
know.
with the 5 best players together. And I need to see that for another reason, Big O. And I wrote about this in the Sun Sentinel today. I need to see how it plays out with the rest of the rotation. So if you are starting
Gotcha.
Bam and PJ and Duncan and Jimmy and Kyle, who's next? And honestly, who's not next? That still remains to be worked out as well.
Yeah, but I worry about it less and less now with the success that we've watched all throughout the roster. And then when we're talking about a Jimmy and a Lowry, those are seasoned veterans that
Right.
will make quick adjustments. I'm not worried about that. I was more worried about, okay, what are these young guys? Can they add anything? Can they develop depth? And now we know that they not developed, they now have depth
Yes.
overall. So I'm not
Contributors.
as worried as you are about the chemistry side because they're all veterans, man. I just think they'll be fine. Maybe chemistry a little bit for Oladipo, who has not had a lot of basketball in his
Yeah.
life on a consistent basis for a while now. That would be the one guy that physically you worry about him a
And
little bit when
again,
he
Big
comes
O,
back.
it's just weird because Vic is on this trip here in Boston. This is a 6-game, 11-day trip. That's encouraging. And yet the Heat are very clear to clarify, or quick to clarify, rather, that doesn't mean he's going to play. It
Right.
just means that he's on the trip. So, you still don't know what's going on. So, I will provide the best bad iPhone 7 video evidence I can in the pre-games. The guys were at practice last week, one of the rare practices, saying he was getting more shots up. But Big O, getting shots up and working pregame is not the same as saying you're cleared for full contact. And that's what we're going through with Markieff Morris. I mean,
Right.
clearly there might be a vertebrae resting against the nerve, and you can want him to come back all you want, but you have to make sure he's able to take the contact. So that's the concern there. With Vic, you want to make sure he's right. Obviously, they invested this season in him. They want to get something out of him. So we will see.
All right, Boston tonight. Your thoughts on the Celtics? What are we seeing tonight?
They should be better. I mean, they have 2 great all-star level players in Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown. They have a tough, gritty player that I've always liked, a Heat-like player to me, and Marcus Smart. So they
Yes.
have that. But then again, they're rolling out the oldness that is Al Horford. There's some mismatched pieces. Dennis Schroeder's on a 1-year deal. And I spoke about this at the start of the season. When you're on a 1-year minimal deal, you're playing for yourself as much as you're playing for your team, and it shows. And the other guy, I just don't get. He was one of my favorite Heat players all time, and I think you knew him well enough to know how good a person he is. But what the hell has happened to Josh Richardson? He's like fallen off the face of the earth. He went to Philly and he was uneven. He went to Dallas and had a bad season. I thought, hey, Boston, Brad Stevens run franchise. He'll come around. And Josh Richardson now is just another guy, sort of like Justice Winslow is just another guy.
Well, it also happens to the guys that excel here
Mm-hmm.
and are coached up, and then they Isaac Austin things, and they go somewhere else, and they played their best basketball here, and they can never, ever match it ever again. And it's something that's happened several times in the Pat Riley era, that we watch guys come back here, revitalize their careers, and whoever it is, Hassan Whiteside never played his best basketball like he did here. Neither did James Johnson. Neither did Keon Dooling. Neither did I mean, it's just Isaac
Anthony
Austin.
Mason, you can keep going on.
Mason.
Sure.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's been going on forever here.
I really thought that Josh Richardson was going to have a better career. He was trending that way. He's a two-way player. He was making threes. Don't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe it's one of those things. And I wonder if your GMs around the league, do you notice what you and I have noticed over the last 20 years, that, hey, be careful in signing Heat players, because they look great in their system, but then when you get them out of their system and they come to us, it's no longer the same player anymore. And so it's one of those things that I don't know what it is. Is it that you develop them and they're not really alphas and they feel alpha-ish when they're inside this organization, and then when they leave, that alpha-ish type of feeling is gone or something? I don't know what it is. I can't explain it.
You know what? It might be the NBA equivalent of Bill Belichick assistant coaches. They work very well in a system, and then they move out of the system, and yet they keep hiring Josh McDaniels, and they keep hiring, Belichick's proteges, hoping that it'll work out. So it's sort of similar. So as long as the Heat get the best of them, we really don't care what happens when they leave.
No, it's true. It is true. We don't care, but it is weird, man, how so many players, and it does, here's the funny part. Either you're an alpha or you're not. Even alphas like LeBron play their best basketball here because they add a dimension, like Bosch, and they add a dimension to your game. So it's not just a middle of the run player or even a lower level player. Even superstars come here and end up even upping their games. So it's just a thing about this franchise. They will get
even it was Shaquille O'Neal's last good years, and then he went to Phoenix and to Cleveland and to Boston, and wasn't the same also.
Yeah, the big cactus. I'm with you there. All right, what are you working on at the Sun Sentinel so folks can check you out?
I did a story I posted about the rotation's almost full now with Kyle. We need to see what we're going to get. Duncan Robinson said, everyone's curious. And even Bam Adebayo said, that's why they pay Spo. He can figure this out. So Eric does have some work. The Heat today signed Chris Silva to his fourth 10-day emergency contract. He has made so much money on these deals, including the one he got from Minnesota. He has now earned more on his 5 emergency 10-day contracts that Caleb Martin is scheduled to earn on his 2-way contract, which shows how crazy this whole thing is. But people, if you know Chris Silva, if you ever met him, just the nicest person in the world. And again, that shows you, if you're a good person, good things can happen. So God bless him. He's there because Omar Yurtsevic's in protocols. Looks like Omar will miss at least the next 3 games, tonight here in Boston, Tuesday in Toronto, and then Thursday in San Antonio. After that, Silva will become ineligible again. This emergency 10-day contract process ends on February 17th. So this won't go on that much longer, but good kid. Glad to see he's getting his chance, but not that he's going to wind up playing. So some interesting things there. And this also week will determine whether Eric Spoelstra coaches the All-Star game. Monty Williams already locked in as coach of the West. Doc Rivers not eligible in the East because he worked the game last year. So it probably comes down to Eric Spoelstra, possibly Steve Nash with Brooklyn. How cool would it be if JB Bickerstaff coaches in his hometown with Cleveland? So this will go to the wire. The cutoff is after games on Sunday. The Heat's last game before the cutoff is Charlotte on Saturday. So between now and then, at Boston, at Toronto, at San Antonio, at Charlotte, a rough schedule. And I got to tell you, if Eric Spoelstra winds up half a game out of first on Sunday, he won't be that heartbreaking when he, Nikki, and the kids have to go to Hawaii instead of Cleveland on February 20th.
All right, I just hope Silva's loading up a little bit on Bitcoin now that it's at a really nice price while he's getting all that extra cash.
Hey, he always tells me, he says, I listen to the Big O and I play the dips, so I guess he's got it.
All right, good. If he's buying the dips, then Chris Silva's hitting it big, baby. He can own a couple of Bitcoins.
And who knows what that translates into Gabonese currency. So that's another part of the equation.
You never know. Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat. Catch his work at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. More importantly, subscribe like I do and support all of our local journalists who deserve it. Ira, thank you, my brother. We will catch up later in the week. Thank you.
Wednesday for an hour. Looking forward to that. Thank you, Big O.
That's right. You got it. Wednesday, baby. It's the Slowmans Inside the Paint Show. That's Ira Winderman and our Acura Pembroke Pines Miami Heat report.
is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.